There comes a moment in every human life when the pain is no longer just a memory. It becomes a shadow that moves with us. It colors how we love, how we trust, how we breathe. Many believe healing is about forgetting the wound. But I ask you today, what if your wound is the doorway? To truly heal, we must descend inward, not to escape the pain, but to confront it. The wound is not the enemy. The wound is the teacher. There is a sacred paradox buried deep within your suffering. The very place where you hurt the most is the place where your greatest transformation can begin. The wound, that tender, painful, often hidden space inside you, is not a curse. It is a doorway. Most people flee from their pain. They numb it with distraction, bury it with business, or deny it through smiles. But what they fail to understand is that the wound is not meant to be erased. It is meant to be understood. Because hidden in that fracture, in the place where your soul feels most broken, is the beginning of your awakening. It is only when the armor cracks that the light can enter. The persona you wear, the outer mask you show to the world, it protects you, yes, but it also imprisons you. And when life breaks you open, through loss, heartbreak, betrayal, or failure, you are tempted to curse the pain, but the universe is not punishing you, it is summoning you. It is pulling you inward, to the place where your real self has been waiting, hidden beneath the roles, the expectations, the lies. Your suffering is not random. It is symbolic. It is archetypal. It is the universal experience of the human being encountering its own shadow. And until you sit with it, feel it, listen to it, invite it to speak, it will fester in silence, and you will remain a stranger to yourself. The wound is the crack in your story, and through that crack, a new voice, your true voice, begins to whisper. A voice that says you are more than what happened to you. You are not your pain. You are the awareness of it. You are not the wound. You are the light coming through it. Do not run from what hurts. Walk into it. Let the fire burn away what is false. Let it consume the illusions of who you thought you had to be. On the other side of that burning lies rebirth. This is not the kind of healing that makes you normal again. This is the healing that makes you whole. And wholeness is not perfection. It is integration, a courageous union with the parts of yourself that were once cast into shadow. You were never meant to live untouched by pain. You were meant to be transformed by it, to become something larger, wiser, more compassionate, more real. So let the light in. Let it pour through the wound, not to close it, but to illuminate it. For in that very wound lies the seed of your becoming. So many of us walk through life wearing invisible armor. Not to shield us from physical blows but to protect our unseen, unspoken wounds. We say we're fine. We smile when we're aching. And deep down, we start to confuse the wound for the self. But let me tell you plainly, you are not your trauma. What happened to you was real. The pain, the fear, the abandonment. They all left marks on your psyche. But those events do not define you. They are chapters in your story, not the name on the cover. Trauma may have shaped how you see the world, but it is not your identity. It is an experience, not your essence. The ego clings to pain because it fears emptiness. And so, unconsciously, we begin to identify with the wound. We say, I am the abused. I am the abandoned. I am the broken. But that is a tragic illusion. You are not what was done to you. You are what you do with it. The psyche has a deep capacity for resilience, for transformation. But it begins with a single realization, that the trauma is part of your past. And you are the consciousness that observes it. Trauma affects the nervous system, the body, the emotions. But yourself, the eternal witness within you, remains untouched. The self is whole always. Your job is to remember it. Healing is not erasing the trauma, nor pretending it never happened. Healing is reclaiming the space that trauma once occupied. It is saying, this pain visited me, but it does not own me. I felt it, I survived it, and now I will transcend it. To confuse yourself with your trauma is to keep your spirit chained to an old narrative. But you are not that narrative. You are the author, and you are allowed to revise the script. You are allowed to grow out of that pain, to outlive it, to expand into a life where the wound no longer dictates the path. And yes, scars remain. But scars are proof of healing, not of identity. They are not there to remind you of weakness, but of survival. They show you've walked through fire and emerged with new eyes, a new heart. Carl Jung once said that we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That means recognizing where trauma lives within you. Not to merge with it, but to observe it, to understand it, to integrate it. Because true power begins the moment you say, "This pain may have shaped me, but it does not own me. I choose who I become." So I say again, with all the force of truth, you are not your trauma. You are not the fear. You are not the rage. You are not the shame. You are the light that is choosing to rise from it. Within each of us lives another self, a hidden one. It does not speak in words but in urges, projections, reactions. It does not seek your attention, but it controls your life from behind the veil. This is the shadow, the denied, disowned, and discarded part of you. And until you confront it, it will remain the invisible puppeteer of your destiny. The shadow is not evil. It is not your enemy. It is not something to kill or conquer. It is simply the part of you we're taught to hide. Your angry, your fears, your desires, your vulnerability, even your greatness. Whatever was unacceptable to your parents, your culture, your religion, your early self-image. That is what you pushed into the dark. But what is pushed down is not destroyed. It waits. The longer you avoid the shadow, the more powerful it becomes. It will surface in the form of projection. You'll see in others the very things you refuse to acknowledge in yourself. You'll judge others harshly not because they are wrong, but because they reflect your own denied truths. And you'll call it fate, or bad luck, or just how people are. But in truth it is your unconscious trying to wake you up. To set your soul free you must confront the shadow. You must turn inward, descend into the underworld of your psyche, and ask, what part of me have I banished? What pain have I buried? What truths do I fear? This is not easy work. It is not clean or comfortable. The shadow does not speak in polite language. It roars with the voice of your suppressed emotions. It holds the weight of your childhood wounds, your forgotten dreams, your unexpressed rage. But in that darkness there is power. In that confrontation there is liberation, because every part of you that you exile becomes a source of inner conflict. You spend your life trying to manage the fallout. Perfectionism, addiction, resentment, emptiness. But once you bring those parts home, once you sit with them and say, "I see you. You are part of me," the war begins to end. The goal is not to become perfect. The goal is to become whole. And wholeness only comes when nothing inside you is rejected. When the shadow is acknowledged, it softens. When it is embraced, it transforms. It no longer needs to sabotage your relationships or hijack your emotions, because now it is being heard. Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This is the path of integration, the sacred task of becoming fully yourself, shadow and all. And it is only after this inner reconciliation that the soul truly begins to shine. Not because it is spotless, but because it is no longer divided, because it is no longer pretending, because it is finally free. So go into the darkness, not to get lost, but to retrieve the parts of yourself that were waiting to be found. Your soul is not hiding in the light. Your soul is hiding in the shadow. And when you embrace it, you reclaim your power. There are truths the intellect can never grasp. Not because they are irrational, but because they belong to a different realm of knowing. Healing is one of those truths. You cannot think your way out of pain. You cannot solve the soul like a puzzle. Because the soul does not speak in logic. It speaks in longing. And it is love, not analysis, that answers that longing. Many try to heal by understanding every detail of their trauma, by dissecting it, naming it, labeling every wound. And while awareness is essential, it is not enough. The mind may analyze the wound, but only the heart can close it. Why? Because the wound was never about facts. It was about feeling. It was about moments when you were not loved the way you needed. Times you were abandoned, silenced, unseen. The injury was emotional, and so the remedy must also be emotional. The unconscious does not care about logic. It understands only energy. The feeling behind your words, the tone behind your thoughts. You can repeat affirmations and still feel empty. You can read every self-help book and still hate yourself quietly at night. Because healing does not happen when you know you are worthy. It happens when you feel it. Love is the force that melts the internal frost. Love is what gives the inner child a voice again. Love says, you don't have to earn healing. You don't have to justify your pain. You don't have to be perfect to be embraced. But this love must begin within. Waiting for someone else to come rescue you is part of the old wound. The real transformation begins when you sit with your pain, not as a critic, but as a caretaker. When you say to yourself, I know you are hurting, and I'm here now. I will not abandon you again. This inner embrace, this self-compassion, is not weakness, it is power in its most sacred form. It is the power that says, I no longer need to suppress my grief. I no longer need to hide my shame. I will hold it, I will feel it, I will love it. And through that love, I will transmute it. Carl Jung understood this well. He knew that the psyche heals not through force, but through integration. And integration cannot happen without love, because love is the great unifier. It draws together the broken pieces. It allows the rejected parts to come home. So let yourself feel. Let yourself care. Let the tears fall if they need to. Let your hands tremble. Let your voice crack. Because every time you meet yourself in love, even in your most fragile state, you are rewiring your soul. You are rewriting the ancient script that said, I must be strong to be safe. Or, I must be perfect to be loved. No, you must only be whole. And wholeness includes the wounded parts. It includes the flawed, the frightened, the forgotten. Love does not ask you to become someone else. Love asks you to remember who you were before the world taught you to reject yourself. So step out of the cold courtroom of logic. Step into the warm chapel of compassion. Speak to your pain the way you would to a child, not with judgment, but with gentleness, because that child lives in you still. Waiting for the day you would stop analyzing and start embracing. That day can be now. That healing can begin today, not through thinking, but through love. There is a quiet kind of suffering that hides beneath the surface of striving, the endless pursuit of perfection. It is the silent belief that to be worthy, you must be flawless, that to be loved, you must never make mistakes, that to be whole, you must first be spotless. But this belief is not truth. It is a distortion, and it is the very thing keeping you from the healing you seek. You were not born to be perfect. You were born to be whole. Perfection is an illusion, a mask, a performance, a rigid shell that separates you from your own humanity. It is the ego's desperate attempt to avoid shame, rejection, and vulnerability. But the soul does not thrive in perfection. The soul grows in the messy, the raw, the real. Perfection separates. Wholeness unites. Wholeness says, come as you are. With your brilliance and your brokenness, your beauty and your bruises. There is room for all of you here. And this is what true healing looks like. Not becoming a version of yourself that is admired by others, but becoming a version yourself that is embraced by you. Carl Jung spoke of the self, not as the ego, not as the image we project, but as the full integrated totality of our being. The self includes the conscious and the unconscious, the light and the shadow, the pain and the potential. It is not about choosing only the acceptable parts. It is about accepting the whole. Healing, then, is not the journey to flawlessness. It is the courageous return to your inner center, where you welcome every part of yourself, especially the parts you were once taught to hide. It means no longer exiling your grief, your anger, your confusion. It means no longer chasing some distant, idealized version of yourself, and instead, being with the truth of who you are now. In wholeness, contradictions can exist. You can be strong and still healing. You can be joyful and still grieving. You can be growing and still afraid. This is not hypocrisy. This is humanity. The obsession with perfection is the voice of the wounded ego. The part of you that still believes love must be earned. But the deeper voice, the voice of the self, whispers something else. You are already enough. Not when you fix yourself, not when you rise above the mess, but now, in the middle of it. And when you begin to live from that place, the place of wholeness, something incredible happens. You soften. You stop judging yourself so harshly. You stop hiding. You begin to live more authentically, because you no longer fear your imperfections being seen. You realize that the cracks in your armor are not failures. They are the places where your soul breathes. You realize that your vulnerability is not a weakness. It is your access to connection, compassion, and truth. And you begin to see that the people who truly matter, the ones who are meant to walk beside you in this life, are not drawn to your perfection. They are drawn to your wholeness, to your realness, to your depth. So let go of the lie that you must be more than you are. Let go of the chase for some imaginary finish line where healing is complete and life is finally under control. Instead, begin the sacred work of becoming whole, of honoring every piece of yourself, of welcoming the wild, the wounded, the wise. Because in the end, you are not here to be perfect. You are here to be fully, beautifully, unapologetically whole. So I tell you now, not with pity, but with power. Heal your wounds right now, not someday, not when others apologize, not when the world changes. Now. The wound is not your enemy, it is the invitation. The darkness is not a punishment, it is the passage. And healing is not forgetting, it is becoming. Become who you are, not in spite of the wounds, because of them.